Hey, detoxifiers, it's me, Daniel Penny. I wanted to share a bonus episode. You may have heard it before. It's an interview I did with the artist and activist Jay Critchley, who is a P-Town legend and whose work has dealt with the intersections of masculinity and the environment for many decades. Every year, Jay does this very unique ceremony the day after the Epiphany, so January 7th. He calls it his Rerooters ceremony, in which he launches a burning Christmas tree into the harbor, along with some chants and some speeches and lots of other fun stuff. If you happen to be on the Outer Cape, I highly recommend you check it out. Given the timing, I felt like the new year, it'd be nice to start off with a conversation with an artist and an activist who I admire. All right, without further ado, here's my conversation with Jay Critchley. I'm walking to the artist Jay Critchley's house, coming around the side to his yard, which is what he refers to as his fun park. And I'm gonna go knock on his door and say hello. We're gonna have a little studio visit.
Welcome. I think you're even early.
Yeah, well, I've been in Cape Cod for too long. Clearly, I'm already becoming too punctual.
Oh my goodness, that's scary. Do you want some tea or something?
Just a glass of water would be good.
Some water. Okay.
Oh, this is great. Jay just handed me the mug. It says Old Glory Condom Corporation, and it is an American flag stretched out into the shape of a limp condom.
Yes, you got it.
So, a lot of your art, I feel like, started taking the form of like a corporate endeavor. Why did you settle on that conceit as the frame for a lot of what you do?
I felt like corporations had too much influence in the 80s. Now it seems, we look back now, it seems very quaint. But, and I also thought, well, if I can create a platform, wear my suit and tie and get up and be an expert on something, then I'll get, my message across. So it was part performance, part persona, and a political way of commenting on, corporate control.
And what were some of the policies or messages that you were trying to get across?
Well, I set up a number of corporations. One was the IRS, which we all know, but it's the International Rerooters Society. So it was about rerouting, reconnecting ourselves to the earth, to the soil, to the sand. And so from that project, I create an annual ritual where I burn a tree out in the water and there's a political theme.
And when does this happen?
January 7th. It's always after the 12 days of, quote, stockpiling of the holiday season. And it's sort of a diatribe, political, spiritual, rant, singing event every year out on the sand flats at sunset. And I build a little boat and I find a discarded Christmas tree and we send it off into the sunset.
And this most recent year that passed, every year you have kind of a chant, right? Can you talk a little bit about what that chant
The theme,
was?
yeah, there's always a political theme. Words are a lot of what the ceremony is about. I do the 10 Commandments, like this year was the 10 Commandments of self-trafficking. But the theme for this year was carbon-captured broligarchs. And don't ask me to say what it's like back. I turn the words backwards and people chant it every time I do one of the 10 Commandments. I could read a couple of them. This is the 42nd year of the Rerouter ceremony, the IRS. And it started in 1983 when we had dumps rather than sanitary landfills. So I was going to the dump, like a lot of people in Provincetown. We collect stuff from dumps. And all these Christmas trees and turkey bones and ribbons and everything was all like piled into the garbage. It was all mixed together. There was no recycling. So I started turning the trees up and created this forest dump. And I thought, well, what if I could reroot those trees? So I took a bunch of trees and I put them in places around town. And I replanted them and monitored them. And, it was sort of a symbolic way of honoring the trees. And then I decided that I wanted to, create a ceremony, to honor the tree, the lowly Christmas tree, which is really we bring it into our houses, these live trees. It's a way to exorcism. It's an exorcism of evil spirits when we bring evergreens into the house. So it was a way of creating a burning and a cleansing out on the water. So that's kind of how the ceremony started. And it was always at first it was just a personal ceremony. I didn't publicize it or anything. It was just a few friends. But then eventually it just sort of became, everyone knew about it and social media and everything. So then it sort of became, which is fine, it became a more public event.
Are you experiencing preemptive revenge? Have you reached a point in your life of being undruggable? And from Dr. Ruth, are you experiencing what Dr. Ruth calls frictionless sex? So let's move to We Free Yanks.
Walk me through this year's theme, carbon captured broligarchs. What is the chant word? How do you say that?
Okay, well now you're going to test my it's Nobrak Derupak Sklergalorb. Nobrak Derupak Sklergalorb, which is carbon captured broligarchs backwards. Do you want to try to say it?
Sure, yeah. I'll join in. Nobrak Durapak Skraglagorb.
Oh, good.
Skraglagorb.
You're good. So the process of putting the ceremonies together is I look through a lot of words and ideas from the previous year, things that, new words or things that grab my attention, and then I accumulate them all into categories like environment, finances, religious, tech, and then I put the 10 Commandments together. And then, people chant after each one, and it's sort of like the highlight of the ceremony. But there are also, I also sing the 12 days of stockpiling. I have other songs that I've rewritten the lyrics to, but we sang "Oh Blight Divine" because it was Divine's birthday this year.
And then I see you've got previous themes as well.
Right, and then
transactional storm surges, grass-fed capitalism.
One of my favorites is sports futility vehicles.
So, this one, carbon captured broligarchs. What does that mean to you?
Well, a lot of my work is about the environment. It's about energy, and so carbon capture. The idea of this technology that's somehow going to save us from all the carbon in the atmosphere. We're going to capture it and we're going to plug it underground and somehow it's going to stay there, is like a fantasy, this whole techno fantasy that we think we're going to get our way out of, instead of just stopping, drilling. So the carbon captured. So the idea is that broligarchs, the oligarchs and all the tech oligarchs that the president has around him have been captured. by technology. They've been captured by this idea of, we can just work our way out. We're smart enough. We have enough money to, but they're captured by this old idea of how we survive as a civilization, which is based on petroleum. So it's really a losing proposition.
Hey, are you enjoying this episode of Non-Toxic? I bet you are. Now would be a great time to hit pause and rate and review the show. It's through your recommendations and your support that other people can find this show. Thanks for listening. And I think, broligarchs connects to a lot of your work. In addition to touching on environmental themes, you often deal with ideas of masculinity or and the kind of pitfalls, I guess, of masculinity. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. I have a project called Olympic Diatribes, which came out of a project that I did for the Olympics in Atlanta in 1995, the year before the Olympics. I was an artist in residence there. So I did a book about the Olympics, and then I just couldn't get this word out of my mind, Olympics. And then I thought, we're so into celebrating the hard male penis, the erect penis, but how often is the penis erect? And when you think about it, most of the time our penises are limp. So I thought, okay, well, let's celebrate. Let's like give some attention to the fact that, we're not always on, right? We're not always like ready. We have a life, right? So I came up with this idea of the limp dicks, and with slogans like "Live and let limp," and "Be less than you can be," and those kind of slogans that I. So the broligarchs. I mean, you've got all these hyper straight white males,
Except for Peter Thiel, he's gay.
Well, Peter Thiel he's not one of the inner circle, is he?
I mean, he's funding it all.
He's funding it all. Peter Thiel. Well, I know that's another whole thing. This is him, right? But
him aside, yes, it's definitely a very straight white male environment.
And I also wrote a play called Olympic Diatribes, which I had a residency at Harvard, and I produced it there, and it was about a town named Limpville, and it was for people that celebrated their limpness. But of course, there were people that came into town with hard penises, and so they disrupted to that to be some, conflict resolution with these folks.
Sounds like a Dr. Seuss story.
I have read
star-bellied sneeches.
I have to say it hasn't been introduced on Broadway yet, but there's hope. Yeah.
You've also done some political activism as well. I mean, or I guess it's art as active, the boundaries between the two are blurry, I suppose.
I would say.
Can you talk about that?
Well, I think all art is political, whether we consciously think it is or not. When you show a painting of, in a very high-end living room with very expensive, shiny fruit in it, makes a comment about class and about aesthetics. So, before I became a born-again artist, which is at the age of 33, I found my voice, my rebirth. I was an activist. I was an anti-nuclear activist. I was involved with politics, McGovern, and anti-war, anti-Vietnam stuff. And then I came to Provincetown and started collecting the land, the earth, the sand, the colors of sand, which I had started collecting, and I started working with the materiality of of the place here. So I think a lot of these corporations we talked about, I mean, they have like a political kind of platform for, like Tacky, which is, as you know, I collect used plastic tampon applicators found on the beaches. They're washed up. And it's TACKI, Tampon Applicator Creative Clubs International. And it's about reclaiming these plastic tampon applicators and making like making sculpture and making a Miss Tampon Liberty gown. And I was hoping to make it like a folk art, like help people to make folk art out of the applicators. And, some people are doing that.
And you've appeared as Miss Tampon Liberty at various state houses and other places of government, right?
Yes, she's a very sacred persona. She appears at very important places like the State House in Boston, where I sponsored legislation. She's made out of 3,000 plastic tampon applicators that they're sort of tied on like the Peanut Man, like they used to go around selling peanuts. So they and when you move in it, it creates this musical sound. And when she moves through, you want to hear the sound of it? So when I was walking, and I should say swishing through the granite marble rooms of the State House as Miss Tampon Liberty, the sound was just,
And what was the bill that you were sponsoring?
It was to ban the sale of non-biodegradable feminine hygiene products, like these plastic one-use, and throw away. And of course, all the lobbyists from Tambran and Tampax and everything all showed up at the State House, to say, no, we can't allow this. And I testified. And the police tried to throw me out of the State House, but then they looked at what I was wearing. They're like, they were speechless.
They didn't want to touch you.
No, they didn't want to touch me. They didn't want to talk to me. They just backed away. So I continued, prancing around the hallowed halls.
I think there's a theme in your work often of wanting to use something that's abject, something that's human waste or like societal waste in some way.
Well, it's about the degradation of materials, the extraction and the overconsumption of materials that really, I think, relates to death, the death of what we use. What am I trying to say? The detritus that we create, and we try to hide, and we try to ignore, we're afraid. We're afraid of our own waste. And I think that we're afraid of our own death. I think it relates. We're in denial about who we are. And I think that death is one of the best things that's happened to human beings. Imagine living forever.
That sounds horrible.
I mean, we're lucky that we know we have this time. And it's a compressed time. And I think it's what gives us our energy. And also, it's something we have to deal with on a daily basis.
Living out in Provincetown, it is a coastal community. It's the very tip of the Cape. How do you feel about the presence of climate change and the rising of the oceans? Is that a part of your general awareness?
My whole work is about that. It's about the climate. And so, all these materials washed up on beaches and the sand that I use and fish skins and Christmas trees and motor oil, It's all about reminding us about our materiality of who we are, that we're material, that we're connected to the soil. We need to listen to the vernacular and the language of the earth. It has a voice, so yeah, the Northeast Atlantic, the Northwest Atlantic actually is warming up faster than anywhere else on Earth. Did you know that? The Gulf of Maine, this area is warming up faster than anywhere else. And so it's a very huge problem here. Provincetown's built right on the harbor, like there's seawalls that line the entire harbor waterfront. And so, it's a very pressing problem right here. There's such a focus on alternatives to fossil fuels and alternative ways that people are adapting to this. But a lot of the way that the media and academia and politics talks about it, they don't include activism as part of the solution, which I find really incredible. And I think it's a indication, once again, that corporations have done a good job propagandizing us, thinking that it's our responsibility, individuals, to make the change and make us feel guilty that we need to cut back on energy that we use, right? We need to recycle, we need to, but it's a political issue. So we need to include politics and activism as one of the solutions. It isn't just about self-care and going to yoga class and and welcoming the energy of the sun in the morning. We all need to do that, but we also need to look at the political reality of the situation.
And that's it for this episode of Non-Toxic. As always, I'm your host, Daniel Penny. If you'd like to support Non-Toxic, you can find us on Substack and Instagram. As the bros we talk about endlessly on this podcast like to say, smash that like and subscribe button.